everyone, my name is Julia Doherty from the Adventure Geek, and I welcome you to the Camino Talk Show, which is where we talk about the Camino. As you know, it's okay reading blogs, and it's okay reading books, or even being online and on forums and that sort of thing, but you can't quite get a true taste of the Camino unless you talk to pilgrims. So today I'm blessed with the presence of somebody that I've met recently on my last pilgrimage, which is, I can't remember exactly where we met, but I'm sure Luca's gonna tell us about that for you. So anyway, let me tell everybody about you. So how do you pronounce your surname? Is it GAGLIO?
No, it's difficult. It's quite difficult for you. It's GAGLIO. It's
Gallo.
like the spelling in Spanish, GAGLIO.
Okay, so Luca GAGLIO.
Correct.
So
Good.
hey, I said it right. Okay, so Luca is a pilgrim from Italy and is very interested in corporate background. You had a corporate background, but now you're a fellow business owner. Is that right?
Correct. I stopped to be a businessman at the age of 40, and I bought this bookstore where we are talking now. It's the back part of my bookstore where I spent my last 15 years doing a bookstore attendant. As a matter of fact, it's my place, and I love it, and I love to stay around my books.
Please, everybody, give a warm welcome if you're listening to this live. Just let you know that me and Luca are online, even though you're watching a recording, but we will be there to actually answer any comments below. So if you're watching this live, if for any reason you're not there, I will certainly be there anyway for answer anyone's comments. So I've already sent some questions over to Luca, but we're going to see how that goes. But I always definitely ask the first two questions in all of my interviews. And the first question for that is, how on earth did you hear about the Camino? Do you actually remember how you heard about it in the first place?
I remember that night as it was just yesterday. It was like a couple of years ago. I was invited to a conference made from a guy that just came just back from the Camino.
Okay.
He was talking at this conference from the esoteric point of view of the Camino of Santiago. So I've been invited. I didn't know the man. I went there, and I spent a very, very interesting night listening to this experience of this man. And since then, I had another 3 opportunities to listen to people back from the Camino talking about their experience. And every time, I became more and more motivated to consider the opportunity to go myself. And yeah, I remember the first time I heard about the Camino, the second and the third. With the third one, I said, now it's time, I have to go. After 3 times you listen such interesting stories and interesting perspective from people that has been actually walking the Camino, I really decided it was my time to start. And the moment I decided was last summer 2017, when I started planning it with my partner in business, with the family, and so to make this possible.
I mean, that must have been a lot to organise for you to be away from your business. You did the whole thing as well. So was it 5 weeks, 6 weeks?
It took a month and some. I left on June 18. I started working on June 18, and I was back on July 22nd, I believe, July 22nd. So it was almost 5 weeks off. Yeah. My partner in business has suffered a little bit, but
have you been forgiven now?
Yeah, I think so far, yes.
Do you feel that people are called to the Camino?
That's a good question. I think more than call it is that everyone deserves an experience like the Camino. It could be something different, but the Camino is probably the best experience. So I think every good person deserves to have the opportunity to live an experience like this.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's there for everybody. So, I mean, did you do lots of preparation, as in, what to take, and did you book hotels and accommodation, or?
A little, because I'm not really a trekking guy or a sportman. I'm quite lazy, as a matter of fact. So I didn't make more than a preparation. It was more a verification that my body was able to do something like this. So to to work for 3 days in a trekking with a rucksack on my shoulders was the first thing I wanted to do, because I never been working with a rucksack on my shoulders. I wanted to make sure this was possible. I wanted to make sure that 40 kilometers in a day, and then the next day, and then the next day. By that, it was not really a preparation. It was just to work a little bit more than usual, just to make sure that legs and shoulders and my back were in the best possible shape before leaving for the camp. But not really training. I'm insisting in that.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. So, and you walked the French route, is that correct?
I did the French one, the traditional one.
And where did you start? Because a lot of people start in Roncesvalles or Pamplona or Saint-Jean.
I started in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port.
Okay.
That's the last French village at the feet of the Pyrenees. So you have to walk through the Pyrenees in the first day. It's very, very tough work.
How did you find that? Because a lot of people say that very first day is like the worst day of the whole thing, and it puts a lot of people off.
Well, to be honest, it is. You are prepared because all the tours, the guides, and all the website talking about Camino are informing about how difficult it is to cross the Pyrenees in the very first days. So you are in some way quite prepared to how hard it is. Mentally prepared. And then when you do the job, you really feel like it is what I expected. And so you get to Roncesvalles extremely tired, and there's nothing worse than you expected, as a matter of fact. It is.
Oh, so you didn't stop halfway at
No,
Orison?
I didn't.
Okay.
No, I woke up very early that morning, and I was ready to start at 7 a.m. and arrived at like 8 hours later, 8.5 hours later in Roncesvalles.
That's some going. Just so everybody knows what we're talking about. So when you start the Camino, you start in at the foot of the Pyrenees, actually in France, and you go up through the Pyrenees. But lots of people stop only 5 miles in. I say only, but it's like that first 5 miles at a place called the Orison. And a lot of friendships are built there at the very first place. If you're like Luca and you can manage it, then a lot of people also go the extra. Is it something like 21 kilometers or something like that?
22, 23, right? Yeah, but what very hard is that is 1,100 meters of uphill.
Elevation for
elevation is 1,100 meters. Yeah.
If it was me, I've done that twice. That particular Pyrenees area, and I would always recommend stopping at the Orison because it's a hell of a day otherwise. Especially on your first day, if you're not used to hiking, then give yourself a break and ease yourself gently into the Camino and stop that halfway point at the Orison. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, it could be a possibility. Maybe leaving not that early in the morning, leaving a little bit slowly in the morning and walking for 2 or 3 hours, I believe. Yeah, that's possible. But yeah, this is how we need to mention about a mistake I did. I listened. The very first guy I met, the one I mentioned a couple of years ago, I met him again just a few months before leaving for the Camino, and I asked him some advices. And he is a little bit older than me, and he said, oh, the albergues are a little bit of a mess for the people of our age, and I would recommend you to use hotels, and small hotels, small places where you can rent a room or something like a private room. And so I did this mistake, and I placed my reservation at the Roncesvalles Hotel. It's a big, fancy hotel, very nice. And so I had my reservation for the second night, as a matter of fact, at the Roncesvalles Hotel. And I would recommend to everyone not to do this mistake, because this took to me an extra day before starting meeting friends and knowing people. As you mentioned it, the first place you have to be as soon as possible is an albergue where you meet real people, real pilgrims. And as soon as you do this, as soon as you start feeling the atmosphere of the pilgrimage and knowing the right persons with which you might walk all the Camino through or just some days or whatever. But this was a mistake I made at the beginning or before leaving for, let's say, a recommendation from this guy. But soon after that, I realized that this was how much it was important to leave the atmosphere in the albergues.
I think a lot of people, especially people who are quite comfortable paying for hotels and that sort of thing, feel that that's what they should do. But you're right. I think you miss out on the essence of what the Camino is about. So, yeah, everybody's been through painful feet and, aches and pains. And when you get together for a pilgrim meal, at the albergues, that's when the true sharing starts to come alive.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you, but do you feel that people share quicker on the Camino than any other situation I've been in? It's like, I know, sometimes it's a bit like having your therapy as you're walking, as you get like a week into it or so, then you start to, I can't explain it. It's really hard to explain, isn't it?
I think there is an atmosphere that helps people to get into friendship and intimacy much, much quicker than anywhere else in my life. So the friendship I created in a matter of few hours is taking outside the Camino maybe months or years of frequentation. So working together is probably a way to get the same rhythm and step by step. And so after, say, a kilometer, you really feel like you have been staying together for days, just because you are using the same pace and the same rhythm for 1,000 footsteps or so. And this is probably because the bodies are staying close and working at the same pace. Probably the brains and the hearts are getting closer much, much quicker than anywhere else. So I would highly recommend the experience of the Camino, even for many reasons, but this is one reason, because if you have difficulties, or let's say if it's not that easy for you to have new friends, to meet people, this is a place where everything changes. It's not my case, because I'm a kind of person that is easy to get in intimacy and friendship with everyone. But if you really want to experience a place where to meet people and to know interesting people, that's definitely a good place to go, because everything is happening much, much quicker. You're right.
Do you also feel, I don't know about you, but I know I did, that people don't judge people as much as they do outside in normal life? Nobody has, you don't know what cars people drive, you don't really know what their job is, people don't talk about that too much. Everyone's wearing very similar clothes. There's none of this instant, okay, well, he's well off, as in, got lots of money, or there was none of that at all. It was just true human being to human being, listening to each other's stories, making each other laugh, singing with each other, bursting each other's blisters. It's
yeah.
It's random. It's really, really strange.
There are different issues and different subjects, as you mentioned. The weight of the rucksack, or the blisters, or the distance you walked the day before, and that's true. That's the only things that matters on the Camino. So that makes everyone behaving completely differently than the normal life, where, as you mentioned, the car or the position as a job, in the job career are the main issues. There's no clue, there's no point in knowing what car you drive when you have to work. And maybe they ask you, how about your shoes? Are your shoes better than mine? Because I'm more comfortable, and that makes everyone feeling more comfortable because of that, because you forget about the usual and standard approaches to people. I would add one point. I believe this was actually for me very much like that. The experience, the decision of going through this experience was very much based on the fact that I wanted to have 1 month for myself only.
Okay.
And I believe that the pilgrim in maybe different levels have this approach to the Camino and the pilgrimage. So to have a certain amount of time to think about themselves and to stay with themselves. So when they meet people, they are not there for judging or for talking about something in surface, but it's just to talk to someone else and using someone else as a mirror more than interested to know about somebody else's life. Just it's not curiosity. The persons you meet and you stay with are more like your mirror along the Camino rather than a real friend for life.
I love that. I've never heard anyone explain it that way, but that's so true. People don't... Do you think that pilgrims are good listeners?
What do you mean?
As in, like exactly what you've said. So people, even though you might share something that's personal with somebody, the person that you're talking to doesn't always give their opinion on how to solve your problems. They're there to listen. And as you say, be a mirror, and you end up solving your own problems.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Rather than, that's what you're trying to say.
The people are listening because they are interested. They are willing to absorb every kind of energy is on the Camino. So you speak to someone and you know they are listening and they are in some way considering what you are telling, but they are not interested in giving you advices or giving you solutions for your life. And as you said, right, it's probably like this. You work, you speak with people, and you get your answers by yourself. So you really have to spend part of your day or part of your Camino alone and part of your day and part of your Camino with someone else to share emotions and feelings that you're getting through.
Okay. So you said one of the reasons then that you walked the Camino was to have some alone time. How did you feel? I don't know about you. I know I felt quite guilty and a bit selfish. You know, I was leaving my husband at home and then I was going to take this time out just for me. Did you have any guilt there that you'd gone off and done this thing and left?
I'm
sorry, I know how I felt. You don't have to answer that.
No, I think I did enough in my life for my family, for my business. I think I deserve it. I told you at the beginning of the interview, I think I was one of the person deserving it.
Okay.
And so no guiltness, but a kind of I considered myself in the right of doing this.
And would you consider yourself a spiritual person or a religious person, or?
Not really. I'm not a religious one. I do love spiritual approach to things.
Okay. But
more in terms of curiosity and exploration rather than being an expert of spiritual issues or matters. So it's more like curiosity and the approach of an explorer.
Okay. So, I mean, did you feel any attraction towards the churches? I know you was quite into the architecture side of things with the churches. Is that right? I spoke to that many people. I'm sure that perhaps not. Your face says no.
No, in fact, I was more attracted by the first guide I've been reading before leaving the Camino was a guide written by an alchemist. Okay. So I was attracted by this point of view, from this perspective. And when I went to churches, I was always looking for these signals left by the alchemist along the centuries, along the Camino. And there are many of them. And I was quite attracted by this point of view, very, very strange and alternative, if you want. They are mainly in the churches, and there are really many of them.
Okay. So did you have a favourite part of the Camino? And for those of you who are listening who don't know what I mean by that, in my opinion, there are like 4 main sections. So you have the Pyrenees, La Rocca, which is all the vineyards, which is beautiful, the Meseta, which I struggled personally with, and then Glacier, which is very much like England and very green, like the Green Tunnel. So did you have a favourite part?
To be honest, I couldn't say I have a favorite part because they have been all important. I divided them in 3 parts. From the beginning in Saint-Jean to, let's say, Burgos.
Okay.
So it was the beginning, the way to learn how to understand and listen to my body and to react to my body messages, telling to go slower or to carry less weight because it was much for my shoulders and so on. And then the mesetas, which is the solitary part, the lonely part, the part where you really need to stay as long as possible alone and absorb all the energy of what you learned in the first part.
Okay. And
then the final part, let's say from Leon, but from Astorga to the end, which is when you really are the master of the Camino, where you have learned everything, where you have learned the ability of stay by yourself, and then you can share this experience with as many people as possible, and doing the final part and the final approach to Santiago de Compostela with the right mode and with the right experience that you have learned and you have experienced, learned at the beginning, the middle, and then practice it in the final part.
Oh God, that's so beautiful the way you've explained that. There's me talking about vineyards and stuff, and you really got it, haven't you? That's exactly
asking
what
if I
it
was
is.
spiritual, so I wanted to.
That's just fantastic. I need to write that down because that's a brilliant way of explaining it. And that's obviously how you felt as well. You know, the tough part, the time for you thinking part, and then time for everybody else and dealing with what you've learnt. I just think that's amazing. That's just fantastic. All right, are we right to do the quick fire round? I'm going to ask you some quick questions. Okay. So, do you recall the weight of your pack? How heavy was your rucksack? Can you remember?
I remember, of course, yeah. I spent quite a lot of time in preparing every single things to bring with me. I had a very close friend, expert in walking long distances, so he helped me in buying the right things of the right material and selecting the right things to bring with me. It was 8.5 kilograms.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty amazing.
And very, very uncommon. It was a very big back or rucksack. How do you prefer to call it?
Either way.
Yeah, I know. I wanted a 55 liters one, which could have been contained more than 12 kilograms. But I wanted to be comfortable in putting the things inside in the morning and not to have to pack everything like in a game.
Like Tetris. Do you remember the game
that's
Tetris?
That's it. Yeah. I didn't want to have this problem every day, so I wanted a big rucksack and a very, very lightweight one, and to have space for everything and just to wrap it and to put things inside and to search easily when I wanted to search something.
Okay. My next question then is, did you bring anything that you didn't use? I actually think I know the answer to this one.
One thing has been suggested by a pilgrim a few days before coming. It was a face towel. I had a very big one for my showers. She said, bring a small one for your face because you need in the morning. And after 10 days, I didn't use it. It was only 150 grams, but I said I don't need it anymore, and I threw it away.
Yeah.
And my friend, the friend that helped me, mentored me in preparing the Camino, he used it to walk very, very solitary trekkings on hills and mountains. So he was always bringing a pepper spray. for wild animals or wild dogs. And he said to me, "You will need this." I said, "I'm working on a place where there are plenty of people. I don't really think I'm going in a wide place." But since it was so lightweight and he insisted so much, I brought this pepper spray. We never use it, as a matter of fact, because never find a wild animal, never a wild dog. But I had this luxury item with me that I couldn't throw away because it was borrowed by my friends, so I took it back.
So you had to carry it. You couldn't throw it away. I love that. So
I would recommend to all the pilgrims planning to go not to bring, because they don't need a pepper spray at all.
I think when I remember asking you, because remember I was taking people's photos and printing out, and I would ask people, "What's your luxury item?" And you said it's your pepper spray that you've never used. And didn't we find out it was actually illegal to have a pepper spray?
Somebody told me so, but
whether it is or not, I don't know. So if you know the answer to that, put a comment below. Okay, sleeping sheet or sleeping bag?
Sleeping sheet, absolutely. Absolutely. It's more lightweight, and I never feel cold in the night, but if it happens, there are plenty of solutions in the albergues to keep you warm. No problem. You don't need a sleeping bag.
Okay, and guidebooks, that's the other question that I had. So was you using an app on your phone? Was you using an actual guidebook?
Absolutely, app.
Use the app?
Yes. I felt more comfortable with the app, giving me a lot of information about the albergues and alternative routes and so on. Much better.
So there's, I think the app a lot of us were using was one just called One Camino.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I use it.
It's just blue and white, and it's quite good. And you can even book through booking.com to actually book some of the places as well. And it tells you exactly where you are on the map, so you know how far you've got to go. So that's a good one. For other people out there, there's another popular one as well called Wise Pilgrim app, which a lot of people are using. So
no, I found this, and I think this is perfectly helping the way I wanted to be helped. So to know every time to know where I was, and to see myself on the yellow track on the map. Even if it's not necessary, because there are so many signs along the Camino that you never feel really lost yourself. Yeah. But just when you have a bit of a depth, you can really get the information you need. I use it more to select the albergue I wanted to sleep to the next stage, rather than finding my way, because the way is easy to be found with the yellow arrows along the Camino. But to select the albergue, it's useful. Never had a reservation through booking.com, but I like it, the way of seeing the different albergue in the next village and comparing them in terms of size, in terms of the cost, and
they got reviews and things like that as well. So that was always good. And whether they had Wi-Fi, which was important. So was there anything that actually surprised you about the Camino? Is there anything that happened that you wasn't really expecting?
There is, one thing I really surprised and I like it a lot was, for me, that I have an age a little bit above the average. I'm 55. I had my birth. So the average is a little bit below, more younger people than me. But I really felt that along the Camino, the age is no longer an issue. So the age of the pilgrim is how many days he has been walking. And so I always felt that to have exactly the same age of younger people, just because we were working since Saint-Jean, or since 10 days, or since 20 days. And this is good, especially if you are no longer very young. I mean, you really forget the difference of age.
You do.
In terms of, and this is taking place in, so the real age is the experience on the Camino. And so you feel older if you've been working more than someone else that has started at the midway for some reason.
Yeah, it's strange you said that. Rachel, you know, my daughter, obviously she walked the Camino as well when she was 13 and then 15. We've just finished it. But one of the things that she said is that she didn't feel young. People talked to her as if she was, everyone's age is irrelevant. Even at such a young age is irrelevant, and people just talk to her like they would treat like an adult. And she said they talked to her like a pilgrim, not like a young teenager, which for her was really, really valuable and made the Camino special for her.
Absolutely.
So I think that's great.
That's the thing that surprised me the more, because I never had such an experience in my life. So I used to be young and I felt younger, and I use it, and now I have mid-aged, but I have always this feeling, especially with my job. I'm working in my bookstore is selling books to the university students. So I'm always with people much younger than me, and I feel it. I feeling this, and so the relationship is always adult and younger, but along the Camino, this disappeared quite rapidly.
So, you know, obviously you walked quite a trek. I only met you on the last little section of it. So did you have different Camino families throughout the whole trip, or? Absolutely.
Yeah. I really liked this fact of changing families or friends or groups quite often. Not because the people were boring me, because they were always interesting people, but because I always felt that the important things was to follow my pace and to follow my rhythm along the Camino. Yeah. So I never wanted to put myself on a different rhythm on the Camino for staying with a group of people.
Yeah, that's so important.
So this made that along the Camino I changed groups at least four times. Always felt comfortable. I love the people I met in the very beginning. I love the people that I met in the middle. But it was necessary and very much important for me not to change my pace because of the people. But we kept in touch. We WhatsApp each other along the Camino, and we are still in touch I'm in touch with many of them. But it was important, really, the rhythm, day by day rhythm along the Camino. It's more important than the people you have been meeting the day before. If you can work with them for 2 or 3 days, that's good. If you can't, you better go, or you better let them go, because it happened too that I met people that wanted to go faster than me, and I let them go. I didn't want to go on a rush just for staying with them. I think, yeah, if you work the Camino with a relative or with a friend this is making you a little bit forced to decide together where to go for the next stage and walk along the day by yourself. Yeah, and cool. Not to force anyone to follow your pace. That's another point.
That is so true. So people often say that the Camino starts, your true Camino starts when you get home.
Mm-hmm.
Did it change you at all, or did you just slip back into normal life?
Part and part. I mean, you go back into your normal life. There's no way you cannot really become a pilgrim for the life. But the way you see things, the way you approach the problems, it's completely different. So you start doing always the same. You start doing the same things when you go home. There's no. I mean, that was for me. But the way I see and react to the problems is completely different. And this is something, Julia, that we really cannot explain on an interview.
No.
It's something we need to tell the people, your life will change. Go walk the Camino, and you will see how much your behavior and your approach to the problem will change. It's something that you have to see yourself. We cannot explain. They will not believe how much it is.
And it changes in here as well as up here.
Yeah.
And you see things differently.
Absolutely. You change your perspective to things, and everything is much more related to the moment instead of what's going to happen the next year or the next month.
Yeah.
You really need to focus on what you are taking and living in that very moment, and spending more time with the people you have around, rather than spending more time on your cell phone or Facebook or whatever, because you stay close
to life.
You will never again, and you forget to spend time with the people you have around. But I want to make sure that everyone that is deciding to go to the Camino because of this interview or because the other things we can do to make them decide is that they will discover a lot of things, and something we know what we are talking about, and they cannot understand this if they don't live it. So if they don't do it.
So if somebody's watching this and they're thinking, I keep hearing about this Camino, it's something that I probably will do, I'm thinking of doing it, what bit of advice would you say to them?
Just go. Just go. Don't think it over too much. Just go. If you can manage to have a 30 days time leave by yourself, don't think of any other things. Just go, because you will be extremely highly rewarded of the efforts and the fatigues and the boredom time along the Camino. You will get a much bigger reward. So just go. I think the only limit is the time. If you have a job that allows you this, if you can take this time off, just take it and go. Maybe it's too late for this year. Just plan it for the 2019. You will be rewarded, and I tell this with the heart, because I know everyone will be happy after that.
Brilliant. I think that's a fantastic place to probably end the interview. Luca, you are a true pilgrim, and you can see it in your eyes. Everyone listen to Luca. If you're thinking about it, just do it. I think it does change your life, and be prepared for that as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share? Was there anything else at all that you had?
No, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, because I really feel it's important that pilgrims have the possibility to share what they felt and what they have been experiencing. And the more we do this, and the more we feel good. So thank you, because this has been a great gift you made to me.
Well, no, thank you for joining me. And I'm sure that hopefully this will take off, and lots of people will watch it, and we'll get to spread the word about this magical place. And that's how I feel it is, true magical.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.
Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.